Hello there, and welcome to the Rare Mindset channel. I'm so glad you found your way here. Tonight, you don't have to force sleep. You can simply allow it, like a slow tide coming in, steady and inevitable. As you listen, you might notice your attention softening at the edges, not trying to hold every detail, just letting the ideas pass through like warm air in a quiet room. This is a gentle documentary for the mind. One where neuroscience isn't loud or demanding, but calming, almost like learning by candlelight. You'll hear 100 carefully chosen facts about the human brain, each explained slowly, with a steady rhythm designed for rest. Nothing here asks you to perform. You can let curiosity do the work, and let your body do what it already knows how to do. If it feels comfortable, let your breathing become slightly longer on the exhale. And as the night unfolds, we'll begin at the most basic, beautiful foundation, the biology beneath thought itself. Chapter 1. The Biological Foundation, Anatomy and Cells. Fact 1. The neuron count. The human brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, and it can be soothing to imagine that number not as something overwhelming, but as something quietly organized, like a vast night sky where every point of light has a place. Neurons are the specialized cells that carry information, and psychological studies suggest that much of what we experience as mind, attention, memory, emotion, emerges from patterns of activity across these living networks. Not one neuron holds your personality by itself. Instead, meaning is distributed, shared, and coordinated. When you learn, rest, daydream, or listen to a calm voice in the dark, billions of neurons subtly shift their activity together, like a slow, synchronized choir, each one small, but together creating something remarkably human. Fact 2. Synaptic connections. Closely connected to this is the quiet miracle of synapses, the tiny meeting points where neurons influence each other. Each neuron can form thousands of synaptic connections, and across the whole brain, that becomes trillions of links, an intricate web that supports thought the way roots support a forest. In cognitive neuroscience, this dense connectivity helps explain why the brain is so adaptable. Information rarely travels in a single straight line. It flows through many possible routes, like water finding gentle paths downhill. This complexity also makes the brain resilient, able to reroute, compensate, and reorganize. And as you rest tonight, many of these synapses will subtly adjust, some strengthening, some quieting, maintaining the living architecture that allows you to wake tomorrow still feeling like you. Fact 3. The energy consumer. In a similar quiet way, the brain is also an extraordinary energy user. Even though it's only about 2% of body weight, it consumes roughly 20% of the body's energy. That can feel surprising, until you remember what the brain is always doing: maintaining balance, predicting the world, regulating the body, and continuously coordinating internal signals. Much of that energy supports background activity, processes you don't consciously notice, like keeping your breathing smooth and your heartbeat paced. Research in physiology and psychology often emphasizes that mental effort has a metabolic cost, which is one reason rest feels so precious. So as you settle into stillness, it may help to know your brain appreciates quiet moments. In rest, it can spend energy more efficiently, with less struggle, less strain. Fact 4. Gray matter versus white matter. This naturally leads us to the brain's two famous textures, gray matter and white matter. Gray matter, rich with neuron cell bodies, is often described as the brain's local processing space, where computation and integration happen close-up. White matter, made largely of axons coated in myelin, forms the long cables that connect distant regions, like soft bundles of fiber optic lines running beneath a city. Modern brain imaging suggests that many cognitive abilities depend not only on which regions are active, but on how smoothly they communicate through these white matter pathways. Thinking, feeling, remembering. These are not isolated events. They're conversations. And as you relax, you might picture your brain as a calm, dimly lit landscape. Islands of gray matter connected by quiet white bridges, carrying signals with gentle efficiency. Fact 5. The blood-brain barrier. Beneath all this activity, the brain is protected by something elegantly selective, the blood-brain barrier. This is a semi-permeable boundary that helps control what passes from the bloodstream into brain tissue, filtering out many toxins and keeping the neural environment stable. Neuroscience often frames this as a key part of homeostasis, the body's ongoing work of maintaining inner balance. The brain functions best when its chemical surroundings are carefully regulated, like a laboratory that must remain clean for delicate experiments. That stability supports clear signaling between neurons and reliable brain function over time. And there's something comforting in this. Even while you sleep, even while you drift, your body quietly guards the brain's inner world, maintaining its calm chemistry, keeping conditions steady, so your nervous system can restore itself in peace. Fact 6. Glial cell, the support staff. Just as important and often less celebrated are glial cells, the brain's devoted support staff. For a long time, people assumed glia were just filler, but research has steadily revealed them as active partners in neural life. Astrocytes help regulate the chemical environment around synapses, microglia assist with immune-like maintenance, and oligodendrocytes create myelin, the insulation that helps signals travel quickly. In many ways, glial cells make neural communication possible by keeping conditions stable, clean, and efficient. It can be soothing to imagine them as quiet night shift caretakers, moving through the brain's corridors while you rest, supporting, repairing, balancing. Your thoughts may feel like the stars, bright and noticeable, but glial cells are the dark sky that holds everything in place, steady, dependable, and always there. Fact 7. Cerebral lateralization. From this cellular foundation, we can widen our view to the brain's overall layout, including cerebral lateralization, the subtle division of labor between the left and right hemispheres. Many functions show some degree of specialization, such as language being more left-dominant for many people, while certain aspects of spatial attention often lean more rightward. But it's crucial, according to modern neuroscience, that the hemispheres are not rivals, they are partners. The corpus callosum, a thick band of connecting fibers, allows constant sharing of information across the midline. Rather than two brains, it's one system with two complementary perspectives, coordinating moment by moment. And as you listen in the dark, you can imagine these hemispheres like two calm hands holding the same object, each sensing something slightly different, yet working together effortlessly. Fact 8. The brainstem survival center. Deep below the cortex, older in evolutionary terms and quietly essential, is the brainstem, often described as a survival center. It plays a major role in regulating autonomic functions like breathing, heart rate, and basic arousal. This includes parts of the reticular activating system, which helps manage wakefulness and the transitions into sleep. You don't have to tell your brainstem to keep you alive. It works in the background, steady and automatic. And for sleep, this matters. When higher thought softens, the brainstem continues its gentle rhythm, coordinating the body's most basic patterns. There's a subtle comfort in realizing that rest doesn't require constant conscious control. As you let go tonight, something deeper continues, breathing you, balancing you, keeping time like a slow metronome. Fact 9. Cortical folding. Above these deeper structures rises the cortex, and one of its most recognizable features is its folding, those ridges and grooves called gyri and sulci. This folding increases surface area, allowing more cortical tissue to fit inside the skull, more processing power in a limited space. Evolutionary neuroscience often describes this as one way the human brain expanded its capacity for complex thought, planning, and imagination. But you don't need to think of it as more in a stressful way. You can think of it as elegant design, like careful origami, shaping a larger surface into a compact form. Each fold is a neighborhood of circuits, specialized yet connected, contributing to perception and meaning. And as you grow sleepier, you might imagine your own cortex as a softly folded landscape, quiet hills and valleys where thoughts can settle and finally become still. Fact 10. Neurotransmitters. All of these structures and networks communicate through chemical messengers called neurotransmitters, released into the tiny gap between neurons known as the synaptic cleft. These chemicals, like dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, GABA, and glutamate, help shape how strongly neurons influence one another. Some neurotransmitters tend to excite activity, others calm it, and many do both depending on context. In psychology and neuroscience, this chemical signaling is central. It helps explain mood shifts, attention changes, learning, and the gradual easing into sleep. Tonight, you don't need to track the chemistry consciously. Your brain already knows the pattern: how to reduce arousal, how to soften vigilance, how to let slower rhythms take over. With each calm breath, imagine signals crossing synapses gently, like quiet lanterns passing light from one neuron to the next. Chapter 2. The sensory gateway, perception and input. Fact 11. Thalamic gadding. Between the world outside you and the cortex where perception becomes experience, the thalamus sits like a calm relay station. It receives streams of sensory data, sights, sounds, touches, and helps decide what gets forwarded for deeper processing. Psychological and neuroscientific studies often describe this as sensory filtering, a kind of gatekeeping that protects the mind from overload. Without it, every tiny detail would arrive at once, bright and equally demanding. With it, perception becomes quieter, more selective, more livable. And at night, when you're safe and still, this filtering can feel even softer, like curtains being drawn across a busy street. Some signals are allowed through, gently, while others are dimmed. In this way, the brain supports sleep not by shutting down, but by carefully choosing what deserves attention. Fact 12. Bottom-up processing. When perception begins from raw sensation and builds upward into meaning, psychologists call it bottom-up processing. Light hits the retina, vibrations move the eardrum, pressure touches the skin, and from these small physical events, the brain assembles a coherent picture. There's something soothing about how patient this process is. Tiny bits of data, gathered and combined, becoming a world. Bottom-up perception is especially noticeable when something is new, when the brain doesn't yet have a strong expectation, and it must rely on the immediate evidence. In quiet settings like a dark room, the sensory stream becomes simpler and the brain's bottom-up workload can ease. You may notice only a few sensations: the weight of the blanket, the temperature of air, the distant hush of sound. The brain builds a calm reality from calm ingredients. Fact 13. Top-down processing. Interwoven with sensation is another gentle force: top-down processing, where the brain uses prior knowledge, expectations, and memory to interpret what it senses. This is how you can recognize a friend's voice even in noise, or fill in meaning from a partial glimpse. Cognitive psychology often explains that the brain is not a passive camera, it's an active interpreter, constantly comparing input to internal models. At night, top-down processing can either soothe you or keep you awake, depending on what your mind predicts. But here's the restful possibility. As you listen to steady narration, your brain learns a new prediction: safe voice, low stakes, slow packing. Over time, that expectation becomes a soft mental cue. The mind begins to interpret the moment as a place for letting go, and sleep feels more permitted. Fact 14. Occipital vision. At the back of the brain, the occipital lobe is devoted largely to vision, housing primary and secondary visual cortices that transform light into shape, motion, color, and depth. Neuroscience often describes this as a hierarchy: simple features first, then more complex patterns like edges becoming objects, objects becoming scenes. Even when your eyes are closed, the visual system doesn't vanish. It quiets, and it may generate internal imagery, faint patterns, drifting pictures, soft flickers of thought. In darkness, the occipital regions receive less external input, and that reduction can be calming for the whole brain. It's as if the busiest window in the mind slowly closes its shutters. And when the visual world becomes simpler, attention has less to grip. making it easier for consciousness to loosen and sink towards sleep. Fact 15. Change blindness. One of the most humbling discoveries in attention research is change blindness, the brain's tendency to miss even large visual changes when attention is elsewhere. It shows that perception is not a full, constant recording. Instead, the mind samples, focuses, and reconstructs, creating the feeling of continuity. Psychological studies using interrupted scenes, like a brief blank screen between images, have shown how easily we overlook differences we'd swear we would notice. And oddly, this can be comforting at bedtime. It means the brain is built to ignore most things most of the time. You don't have to monitor every detail of your environment to be okay. Your attention can be narrow, gentle, and selective. In the quiet of your room, your brain naturally stops tracking what doesn't matter. It lets the world blur at the edges, like a slow fade-out, so rest can take center stage. Fact 16. Auditory localization. Hearing feels effortless, but the brain performs a subtle calculation to locate sound. Auditory localization relies partly on tiny differences in timing and loudness between the ears, binaural cues that help the brain infer direction. The temporal lobes and brainstem circuits work together, turning microseconds into meaning. This is why a sound can feel over there, even with your eyes closed. In evolutionary terms, this skill supported safety and orientation. Yet at night, in a familiar space, the same system can relax. When the environment is steady, no sudden changes, no urgent signals, your auditory brain can downshift into a softer mode of listening. You might still hear small sounds, a distant car, the creak of settling wood, and your brain quietly places them on a mental map then, when they carry no threat, allows them to pass without awakening you. Fact 17. Proprioception. Even with your eyes closed, you know where your hands are. You can sense the angle of your knees, the position of your shoulders, the tilt of your head. This is proprioception, the brain's internal awareness of the body's posture and movement. Signals from muscles, tendons, and joints travel upward to the somatosensory cortex and related networks, forming a moment-by-moment body map. Cognitive neuroscience often calls this the body schema, a quiet model that helps you move smoothly without needing constant visual guidance. In bed, proprioception becomes especially gentle. As your body settles, the map stabilizes, fewer adjustments, less updating. The nervous system can finally stop negotiating with gravity. And as that inner map grows still, it can feel like your mind has fewer reasons to stay alert. You are located. You are supported. You are allowed to rest. Fact 18. Sensory adaptation. The brain is designed to notice change more than constants. With sensory adaptation, a steady stimulus, like a scent, a hum, or the feeling of clothing, gradually fades from awareness. This isn't failure, it's efficiency. By reducing attention to unchanging input, the brain frees resources for what might matter. Psychologists often connect this to habituation and neural fatigue. When neurons respond repeatedly to the same signal, their response diminishes. At night, sensory adaptation becomes a friend. The weight of your blanket, the feel of your pillow, the steady temperature of the room, these constant signals become background. They remain present but less demanding, like quiet music you stop actively hearing. And as more sensations fade into the periphery, the mind has less to process, less to label, less to hold. Sleep becomes a natural continuation of that fading. Fact 19. Synesthesia. Some brains experience perception with unusual blending, a phenomenon known as synesthesia, where one sensory input automatically triggers another, like hearing sounds that evoke colors or reading letters that carry a taste or texture. Research suggests synesthesia may involve cross-activation between sensory regions or differences in how networks are inhibited during development. While synesthesia is not universal, it reveals something universal beneath it. The senses are not isolated. The brain integrates. It weaves together sight, sound, touch, and meaning into one felt reality. Even without synesthesia, you may notice subtle cross-sensory echoes, how a voice can feel warm or darkness can feel soft. At bedtime, these gentle metaphors matter because they reflect the brain's natural tendency to unify experience. As you listen, allow the sound to become a kind of texture in the mind, smooth, dim, and quiet, helping the whole system drift together. Fact 20. The fusiform face area. In the underside of the temporal lobe, many brains show strong activation in a region often called the fusiform face area, involved in recognizing faces. Faces are socially crucial stimuli, and neuroscience suggests the brain dedicates specialized processing to them because reading identity and emotion supports connection and safety. This system helps you notice tiny differences, an eyebrow lift, a familiar contour, a subtle shift in expression. It's part of how humans become deeply social, even before language is fully developed. And at night, it's interesting to realize that this facial expertise is still within you, even in darkness. You don't have to scan faces now. There's nothing to decode, nothing to interpret. The social visual system can rest. And perhaps in that resting, you feel a small relief, like setting down a task you didn't realize you were carrying. Chapter 3. The Library of the Mind Memory Systems. Fact 21. Hippocampal indexing. Deep in the brain sits the hippocampus, often described as essential for forming new episodic memories. One useful metaphor from cognitive neuroscience is hippocampal indexing. The hippocampus helps bind together elements of an experience, where you were, what you saw, what you felt, so the cortex can later reassemble them. Rather than storing every detail permanently in one place, the hippocampus acts like an organizer, pointing to distributed traces across the brain. This is part of why memory feels like reconstruction, not replay. At night, the hippocampus remains busy in a quieter way, coordinating with the cortex to consolidate experiences from the day. And there's something soothing in that. You don't have to finish processing everything before bed. Your brain has a night shift. It continues gently sorting, linking, and filing, so your conscious mind can loosen its grip. Fact 22. Working memory capacity. In the foreground of thought is working memory, the limited mental space used to hold information briefly, often described as around 7 items, though modern research suggests it depends on the task and may be closer to 4 chunks for many types of material. Working memory relies heavily on prefrontal and parietal networks, and it's part of what makes mental effort feel effortful. It's also why bedtime rumination can feel so cramped. When working memory is full of worries or plans, there's no spaciousness left. But you can use this limitation as a gentle ally. As you listen to calm facts, the mind's workspace becomes occupied by something neutral and steady. Not demanding, not urgent, just softly structured information. The brain holds a few ideas, then lets them go, making room again. That rhythm, hold, release, mirrors the natural rhythm of drifting off. Fact 23. Long-term potentiation (LTP). When learning happens at the cellular level, one core mechanism is long-term potentiation, or LTP, a lasting strengthening of synaptic connections after repeated activation. Neuroscience often connects LTP to the idea that experience leaves a physical trace. It's not just in your head metaphorically. It's in the microscopic adjustments of communication between neurons. Repetition, attention, and emotional significance can all influence how strongly synapses change. And in a calm sense, LTP reminds you that the brain is always listening, always adapting. Even a gentle habit, like relaxing your jaw when you notice tension, can become easier over time because the pathways used for that relaxation strengthen with practice. Tonight, as you return to slow breathing and steady listening, you may be reinforcing a quiet association. Night equals softness, learning equals safety, rest equals permission. Fact 24. Procedural memory. Some memory lives outside conscious narration, stored as skill and habit. This is procedural memory. It supports actions like typing, riding a bike, or making tea without needing step-by-step awareness. Structures such as the basal ganglia and cerebellum play major roles, helping the brain automate sequences and refine movement. Procedural memory is the reason practice can transform effort into ease. And it also explains something comforting. You don't need to consciously manage everything your body does. Many functions have already been trained over years: walking, swallowing, shifting position, adjusting posture. At bedtime, procedural systems continue quietly, allowing you to turn over or settle deeper without fully waking. Your body knows the choreography of comfort. It finds a better angle, a softer placement, a more stable position, often before your thinking mind even comments. In that way, sleep becomes partly automatic skill. Fact 25. Episodic memory. Episodic memory is sometimes described as the ability to mentally time travel, to re-experience personal events with a sense of ownership, as if you are there again. Cognitive psychologists call this autonomic consciousness, the feeling that a memory belongs to you and occurred in your life. Episodic memory is rich. It can include sights, sounds, emotions, even bodily sensations. It's also selective and reconstructive, shaped by what you noticed and what you later believed it meant. At night, episodic memories can float up, small scenes from the day, fragments from long ago. Rather than fighting them, it may help to see them as the brain gently reviewing its library, pulling a few books from the shelf. You don't have to read them all. You can let them open for a moment, then close again, trusting that the mind is simply doing what minds do. Fact 26. Semantic memory. Different from episodes is semantic memory, your storehouse of general knowledge, words, concepts, meanings, and facts about the world. You might not remember when you learned that Paris is a city in France, but you know it. Semantic memory forms the backbone of understanding, allowing you to interpret new information quickly by linking it to what you already know. Neuroscience suggests semantic knowledge is distributed across cortical regions, organized by categories and associations, like a web where one idea quietly points to another. This is part of why learning can feel soothing when it's not pressured. You're simply adding gentle threads to an existing tapestry. Tonight, as you absorb calm neuroscience, you're placing a few new semantic stones in the mind's garden. Nothing urgent, just quietly enriching. And if you forget the details by morning, that's fine too. Sleep learning is about atmosphere as much as retention. Fact 27. Retrieval cues. Memory retrieval is often guided by cues, small details that help the brain locate what was stored. Psychologists call this context-dependent memory when recall improves because the environment matches the one where the memory was formed. A smell, a song, a lighting tone can act like a key. This is why certain places make you remember certain versions of yourself. It's also why bedtime routines are powerful. The same dim room, the same pillow, the same quiet voice can become cues for sleepiness. Your brain learns the pattern and begins preparing in advance. In a gentle way, you're training retrieval cues for rest. Each night you repeat calm steps, lowering lights, slowing breathing, listening to steady narration. You strengthen the association. Eventually, the cues themselves begin to retrieve a state: relaxation, drowsiness, letting go. The body hears the signal and responds as if remembering how to fall asleep. Fact 28. The forgetting curve. The forgetting curve, first described by Ebbinghaus, captures how memory tends to fade quickly at first, then more slowly over time. This pattern suggests that forgetting is not purely a flaw. It's part of how the brain manages limited storage and prioritizes what matters. Without forgetting, the mind would become cluttered, crowded with details that no longer serve you. Cognitive science often frames memory as adaptive. It keeps what is reinforced, useful, or emotionally significant and lets the rest dissolve. At night, it can be comforting to let forgetting happen. You don't have to preserve every conversation, every image, every thought. Some things can fade safely into the background. Sleep itself supports this sorting, strengthening some traces while allowing others to weaken. So if your mind worries about not remembering, you can remind it softly. Forgetting is also a form of intelligence. It makes space. Fact 29. Flashbulb memories. Some memories feel like they were captured in bright detail. These are often called flashbulb memories, associated with emotionally significant moments. Research suggests they can feel extremely vivid, yet still be imperfect, because confidence and accuracy aren't the same thing. Emotion, especially surprise and high arousal, can strengthen the impression of remembering, involving interactions between the amygdala and hippocampus. But the brain is not storing a photograph. It's storing a story built from many components. In a calming context, it's enough to know that strong emotion tags experiences as important, encouraging the mind to revisit them. And as you rest, you might notice how the opposite is also true. Low arousal tends to soften memory encoding, which is why quiet evenings blur together in a pleasant way. Gentle, repetitive nights become less like sharp snapshots and more like a smooth river, easy to drift upon. Fact 30. Reconsolidation. When you recall a memory, something subtle happens. It becomes temporarily flexible again, a process known as reconsolidation. Neuroscience suggests that reactivated memories can be updated, integrating new information before being stored again. This helps explain why memories can change over time, not always because of deception, but because the brain is constantly rewriting for coherence. In a quiet way, reconsolidation is a reminder that the mind is alive, not archival. And this can be soothing because it means your relationship to the past is not fixed in stone. Each time you remember, you also reinterpret. At bedtime, if an old thought floats up, you can hold it lightly. You don't have to argue with it. Simply noticing it in a calm state may already be a gentle update, linking the memory with safety rather than tension. Then you can let it settle back into the mind's library, changed just a little by piece. Chapter 4. The Emotional Engine, the Limbic System. Fact 31. Amygdala Salience. In the brain's emotional engine, the amygdala plays an important role in detecting what matters, especially what might be significant for safety. Neuroscience often describes this as salience tagging. The amygdala helps flag stimuli as emotionally relevant, increasing attention and memory encoding. It does not only respond to fear, it responds to intensity and meaning more broadly. At bedtime, when the amygdala is more reactive due to fatigue or uncertainty, small concerns can feel larger than they truly are. Yet the calming truth is that the amygdala is not a wise storyteller. It's a signal booster. Its job is to highlight, not to judge. As you lie here, you can let the signal soften. You're in a safer context now, with fewer demands. And with slow breathing, the brain often reduces arousal, gently turning down that emotional volume knob, until sensations become less urgent and sleep becomes more available. Fact 32. The hypothalamus in balance. Close to the amygdala sits the hypothalamus, a small structure with an enormous job, maintaining internal balance. It helps regulate hunger, thirst, temperature, and the release of hormones through its connection with the pituitary gland. Psychophysiology often frames this as homeostasis, the body's ongoing effort to keep conditions in a stable range. The hypothalamus is like a quiet conductor, coordinating body systems so the mind can function. At night, its work becomes especially rhythmic, supporting shifts toward rest, cooling body temperature slightly, and coordinating hormonal patterns that match sleep. And it may be comforting to remember, you are not solely responsible for regulating yourself. Much of your stability is automatic, handled by deep circuitry that has been refined over millions of years. As you relax, you're not doing nothing. You're allowing these systems to do what they do best: balance, recalibrate, and restore. Fact 33. Oxytocin and trust. Among the brain's chemical messengers is oxytocin, a neuropeptide often associated with bonding, trust, and social soothing. Research suggests oxytocin can play roles in attachment behaviors, parental care, and the warmth of safe connection, though its effects are complex and context-dependent. Still, it's meaningful that the nervous system has pathways designed for calm closeness. When you feel safe with someone, your body often shifts toward a softer state. Breathing deepens, vigilance eases, muscles unclench. At bedtime, even if you're alone, you can create a small echo of that safety through tone, routine, and gentle self-talk. Listening to a steady voice can serve as a social signal, predictable, non-threatening, and calm, and the brain responds to safety cues. It begins to settle. In that settling, connection becomes not something you chase, but something you quietly receive, like warmth spreading through the chest, unhurried and real. Fact 34. The reward pathway. The brain also contains a reward system that helps guide motivation, learning, and habit. One key component involves dopamine, especially within pathways linked to the ventral striatum and broader mesolimbic circuits. Dopamine is often misunderstood as a simple, pleasure chemical, but many researchers describe it as a signal for prediction and learning, especially when something is better than expected. That gentle element of surprise can strengthen behavior, teaching the brain what to repeat. At night, the reward system can either keep you restless, seeking stimulation, or help you settle if you associate calm with reward. This is why small, comforting rituals matter. A familiar blanket, a dim light, the steady rhythm of quiet information. Your brain can learn that rest itself is rewarding. Not dramatic reward, just a soft sense of yes. A feeling of enoughness. And when enoughness arrives, sleep doesn't feel like a task. It feels like the next natural step. Fact 35. Cognitive reappraisal. One of the most researched emotion regulation strategies in psychology is cognitive reappraisal, changing the emotional meaning of a situation by viewing it from a different perspective. This often involves prefrontal networks influencing limbic activity, including the amygdala. Reappraisal isn't denial, it's reinterpretation. For example, a racing heart can be framed as danger or simply as the body's energy shifting. A mistake can be framed as proof of failure or as information for learning. At bedtime, reappraisal can be very gentle. You don't need to solve your life. You can simply reframe wakefulness as a neutral state, your brain still unwinding, still transitioning. The more you remove threat from being awake, the less the nervous system fights itself. And in that softer relationship with the moment, sleep often arrives on its own, like a cat approaching when you stop reaching for it. Fact 36. Effective forecasting. Humans are natural predictors, and one common bias is effective forecasting, our tendency to mispredict how strongly we will feel in the future. Research on the impact bias suggests we often overestimate both the intensity and duration of emotional reactions to events. The brain imagines the future with simplified snapshots, leaving out the many small adjustments we naturally make. This is part of why nighttime worries can feel convincing. The mind predicts a future emotion and treats it as if it's already real, but the quiet corrective is that feelings are fluid. They rise, shift, and soften, often faster than we expect. You've recovered from more than your mind remembers. At night, you can let predictions be just predictions, clouds passing across the inner sky. You don't have to argue with them. You can simply notice, my brain is forecasting. And with that small distance, the forecast loses force and calm can return. Fact 37. The insula and interoception. The insula plays a key role in interoception, the brain's perception of internal bodily states, such as heartbeat, hunger, temperature, and the subtle rise and fall of breath. This inner sensing helps shape emotion, because feelings are not just thoughts, they are also bodily patterns interpreted by the brain. Many neuroscientists describe emotion as partially constructed from these internal signals. At bedtime, interoception can become more noticeable because the outside world is quieter. You may feel your pulse, the warmth in your hands, the heaviness in your limbs. This can be grounding rather than alarming. It's your body speaking in simple language, pressure, warmth, rhythm. As you listen, you might let the insula's awareness become a soft anchor, not monitoring, just noticing. Breath comes in, breath goes out. Heart beats, then beats again. The body continues faithfully, and that faithful rhythm can lull the mind into stillness. Fact 38. Mirror neurons. In social neuroscience, mirror neurons are often discussed as cells that fire both when performing an action and when observing someone else perform it. Though the full story is complex, research suggests that observation can activate parts of the motor system, as if the brain is simulating what it sees. This kind of embodied simulation may support learning and empathy, helping us understand actions from the inside. Even in simple ways, your nervous system echoes what it perceives. That's why a yawn can be contagious, and why a calm voice can invite calm physiology. At bedtime, this can work in your favor, as you hear slow packing, gentle pauses, and soft certainty. Your brain may subtly mirror the steadiness, reducing its own internal speed. It begins to simulate rest, and when the body simulates rest long enough, it often becomes real rest, unforced, natural, and deep. Fact 39. Emotional contagion. Related to mirroring is emotional contagion, the automatic tendency to catch the emotional tone of others through facial expression, posture, voice, and rhythm. Psychology studies suggest this can happen without conscious intention. We synchronize because humans are social organisms built for coordination. In groups, shared emotion can increase safety and cohesion. And even in solitude, a voice, a story, a cadence can shape your internal state. That is part of the design of sleep-friendly narration. Low arousal signals invite low arousal responses. As you listen, you may find your nervous system settling into the tempo, like a pendulum matching a slower swing. The brain begins to predict the next calm phrase, the next gentle pause, and that predictability reduces vigilance. Nothing surprising needs to be managed. In this way, calm becomes contagious too, spreading through the body quietly until the idea of effort feels far away. Fact 40. Resilience and the vagus nerve. The body's ability to recover after stress is connected to the parasympathetic nervous system, and the vagus nerve is a major pathway in that calming network. The vagus helps regulate heart rate, digestion, and the body's rest and digest state. In psychophysiology, stronger vagal tone is often associated with flexibility, the capacity to settle after arousal. This isn't about forcing calm. It's about allowing the brakes to work smoothly when the accelerator is no longer needed. Slow exhalation, gentle breathing patterns, and feelings of safety can support parasympathetic activation. And at bedtime, you can think of the vagus nerve as a quiet invitation to come home to the body. Not a command, an invitation. As your exhale lengthens, the heart can slow slightly, muscles can soften, and the brain receives the message. The emergency is over. The day has ended. Now the system can repair, restore, and drift. Chapter 5. The Social Circuitry, Connection, and Empathy. Fact 41. Theory of mind. One of the brain's most quietly powerful abilities is theory of mind, the capacity to understand that other people have their own thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and perspectives. Developmental psychology suggests this ability emerges gradually in childhood, and cognitive neuroscience links it to a network that can include the medial prefrontal cortex and temporoparietal junction. Theory of mind is how you can guess what someone might mean, not just what they say. It's also how you can imagine unseen inner worlds, your own and others. At night, this ability can sometimes keep you awake, replaying conversations and interpreting signals. But it can also become soothing when turned gently inward. You can recognize that your own mind has states too: tired, sensitive, overactive. And when you treat your mind as something to understand rather than fight, it often softens, feeling quietly accompanied. Fact 42. Social rejection as physical pain. Research in social neuroscience has found that the experience of social exclusion can activate brain regions also involved in physical pain processing, including parts of the anterior cingulate cortex. This doesn't mean emotional pain is imaginary. It means the brain uses overlapping systems to signal threat, because connection has been vital for survival throughout human evolution. The mind treats belonging as protective. Yet for sleep, it's helpful to hold this fact with tenderness. If you ever feel the sting of distance or misunderstanding, your brain may be responding like it would to an injury trying to protect you. At bedtime, you don't need to analyze it. You can simply offer safety cues: warmth, softness, steady sound. These cues tell the social brain, for now, you are not being abandoned by the world. You are resting inside a temporary shelter of quiet. Fact 43. In-group bias. The human brain categorizes quickly, and one common pattern is in-group bias, a tendency to favor people perceived as like us. Social psychology and neuroscience suggest this can happen automatically, with the brain using fast categorization to simplify a complex social environment. In ancestral settings, quick affiliation may have offered safety and shared resources. Today, it can shape perception in subtle ways, influencing trust and empathy. This fact isn't here to judge the brain, only to describe it. The mind seeks familiarity because familiarity reduces uncertainty, and uncertainty costs energy. At night, you can use this gently. Create familiar surroundings, familiar routines, familiar tones. The brain relaxes when it recognizes patterns it already knows. In a sense, bedtime becomes an in-group experience with yourself, returning to what feels safe, predictable, and quietly yours. Fact 44. Altruism and the brain. Helping others can activate reward-related circuitry, including regions associated with dopamine pathways. Social neuroscience suggests that prosocial behavior, acts of giving, supporting, cooperating, can feel intrinsically satisfying, not only morally meaningful. This makes sense in evolutionary terms. Groups that supported one another tended to survive. In calmer psychological terms, altruism can reduce the sense of isolation by reinforcing connection and purpose. At night, you might recall a small kindness you offered or received, something simple like patience, a kind message, a held door. You don't have to turn it into a story. Just let the memory be a warm proof that your nervous system is capable of connection. And if you struggle to sleep, you can offer kindness inward as well, softening self-criticism, loosening the need to perform. That too is prosocial behavior, directed toward the person who lives inside your skin. Fact 45. Nonverbal decoding. Much social understanding happens without words. The brain has specialized systems for interpreting nonverbal cues like eye gaze, facial expression, posture, and movement, often involving areas such as the superior temporal sulcus. These signals help you detect intention, emotion, and attention direction. Because they matter, the brain can become vigilant about them, especially during stress. But at bedtime, there is a gentle relief. You don't have to decode anyone. No microexpressions to interpret, no hidden meanings to track. Your social perception systems can stand down. Even if you're listening to a voice, the tone is steady and predictable. No sudden shifts, no sharp edges. This predictability is soothing because the brain is always scanning for unexpected social signals. When none arrive, the system relaxes, and the quiet sense of "I can stop monitoring" becomes a doorway into sleep. Fact 46. Social baseline theory. Social baseline theory suggests that the brain expects, at a fundamental level, that we will face the world with others nearby. When supportive others are present, the brain can spend fewer resources on threat vigilance and self-regulation, because risk and effort feel shared. Studies often show that simple social presence can reduce stress responses. This doesn't mean you must always be with people to feel calm. It means the nervous system is built for co-regulation. At night, you can simulate that supportive presence through consistent cues, a familiar bedtime routine, a comforting narration, the sense that someone is keeping gentle watch while you drift. You might imagine the voice as a quiet companion in the room, not demanding anything, just offering steadiness. In that imagined company, your brain can relax its workload, as if it no longer has to carry the whole world alone. Fact 47. Joint attention. Joint attention is the ability to coordinate focus with someone else, following their gaze or pointing to share attention on the same object. Developmental psychology considers it a cornerstone of learning, language, and social bonding. It's how infants begin to understand that minds can share a world. In adulthood, joint attention continues whenever you and someone else watch the same scene, listen to the same story, or notice the same small detail. Tonight, joint attention can be very soft. You and this narration are attending to the same gentle subject, the brain itself. There's no pressure to respond, only the quiet experience of shared focus. And shared focus tends to slow the nervous system. It reduces the feeling that you must manage everything internally. You can lean into the guided attention, letting it carry you like a slow boat, while your own mind rests its muscles of control. Fact 48. Self-referential processing. When you think about your own traits, memories, preferences, and identity, a particular network becomes active, often including the medial prefrontal cortex. This is self-referential processing, and it can be useful, helping you plan, reflect, and stay coherent across time. But at bedtime, it can become sticky, pulling you into evaluating yourself, replaying mistakes, comparing, judging. Neuroscience suggests the self is not a single spot, but a pattern and ongoing activity. That can be relieving because patterns can change. As you listen, you might notice self-thoughts arise, then fade. You don't have to follow them. You can treat them like distant radio chatter, present but not compelling. The self-network can quiet when it's not being fed attention. And as it quiets, many people feel the first true softness of sleep, a loosening of me, a gentle widening into simple sensation. Fact 49. Neuroeconomics. The brain evaluates social situations in terms of cost and benefit, time, effort, risk, trust, reciprocity. This field is often called neuroeconomics, blending psychology, neuroscience, and decision theory. It helps explain why some interactions feel energizing while others feel draining. The brain is constantly estimating what might happen next and what it will require from you. At night, these calculations can continue in the form of overthinking, what you should have said, what someone meant, what you must do tomorrow. But you can offer your brain a new input. The social marketplace is closed for now. No bargaining, no optimizing, no predicting, just rest. It may help to picture your mind's ledger gently closing, pages settling. In this quiet, there's nothing to gain and nothing to lose. And that is precisely what makes sleep possible. Fact 50. Loneliness and vigilance. Loneliness is not just a feeling. It can shift attention. Research suggests that when people feel isolated, the brain may become more vigilant for social threats, more likely to interpret ambiguity as rejection. This hyper-alertness can be self-protective in the short term, but tiring over time. Importantly, this isn't a personal failure. It's an evolutionary strategy. If belonging increases safety, then the lonely brain scans harder for signs of danger. At bedtime, that scanning can become a restless loop. So the soothing approach is to reduce ambiguity and increase safety cues. Consistent sound, gentle packing, warmth, and routine. You can also remind your brain, quietly, that solitude tonight is not the same as abandonment. It's a chosen pause, a recovery space. And even if you feel alone, you are still connected to the human pattern, millions of brains drifting into sleep under the same sky. Chapter 6. The Executive Suite: Logic and Control. Fact 51. The prefrontal cortex, PFC. The prefrontal cortex, often called the brain, CEO, supports planning, reasoning, impulse control, and long-term goal management. In cognitive neuroscience, it's part of what allows you to hold a future in mind, tomorrow, next month, next year, and act accordingly. It can be a beautiful capacity, but it can also keep you awake because the PFC is skilled at generating scenarios and contingency plans. At bedtime, the brain naturally reduces prefrontal dominance. This is one reason thinking becomes looser and dreamlike as you approach sleep. Tonight, you can let your PFC relax its grip. You don't need to solve anything right now. Planning is a daytime tool. In the dark, you are allowed to become less strategic and more simply alive, breathing, sensing, and letting the stream of thought slow until it becomes a quiet hush. Fact 52. Inhibitory control. A major function of the executive brain is inhibitory control, the ability to suppress an impulse in favor of a chosen goal. It's involved when you pause before speaking, resist checking your phone, or stay with a task despite distraction. Classic experiments like the Stroop task reveal how inhibition requires effort, because the brain must override an automatic response. At night, you may notice inhibition fatigue. The willpower muscles are tired, and intrusive thoughts slip through more easily. The calming perspective is that you don't have to win against thoughts to sleep. Sleep often comes when inhibition stops wrestling. Instead of suppressing, you can allow thoughts to pass without engagement. Like leaves on a slow stream, they can float by while you remain on the bank. In a paradoxical way, giving up control is the most effective control at bedtime. The brain rests from managing itself, and sleep arrives as a natural consequence. Fact 53. Cognitive flexibility. Cognitive flexibility is the brain's capacity to shift between tasks, rules, or perspectives. It supports adaptation, changing your approach when the environment changes. Neuroscience links flexibility to networks involving the prefrontal cortex and its connections with other regions. In daily life, flexibility helps you problem solve. At night, however, too much flexibility can become mental wandering. The mind jumps from one topic to another, exploring endless pathways. For sleep, you don't need to chase every branch. You can let flexibility soften into fluidity. Thoughts can change, but you don't have to follow. If you notice your mind hopping, you can gently return attention to a simple anchor, like the breath or the weight of your body. This isn't rigid control, it's a soft redirect, like guiding a drifting balloon back toward a quiet corner of the sky. Fact 54. Decision fatigue. After long periods of choosing what to do, what to say, what to prioritize, people often experience decision fatigue, a decline in decision quality and mental energy. Psychology research suggests that making decisions draws on limited cognitive resources, especially when choices carry emotional weight. By nighttime, the brain's decision system may feel worn, which is why even small choices can feel irritating or heavy. The soothing truth is that sleep is not another decision you must perfect. You don't need to choose the right position, the right thought, the right technique. You can let the day's choices be enough. In bed, you can step out of the decision stream entirely. No more optimization, no more micro choices, just one permission to rest. And as you stop spending energy on selecting, evaluating, and refining, your nervous system begins to recover, quietly, steadily, as if the inner committee has finally gone home. Fact 55. Conflict monitoring. When two impulses compete, rest versus productivity, comfort versus worry, the brain detects that conflict using systems that include the anterior cingulate cortex. This is conflict monitoring, and it helps you notice errors, adjust behavior, and stay aligned with goals. It's a useful alarm, but at bedtime it can create tension. Part of you wants to sleep, another part wants to think, plan, or replay. The conflict monitor notices the mismatch and sounds a subtle internal alert which can paradoxically keep you awake. The calming move is to remove the conflict by changing the goal. Instead of "I must sleep now," the goal becomes "I will rest now." Rest has no sharp boundary. You can do it while awake, and when conflict reduces, the alarm quiets. The brain stops tracking errors and starts allowing. In that allowance, sleep often appears not as a victory, but as a gentle fading, like a light dimming when no one is insisting it stay bright. Fact 56. Delayed gratification. Delayed gratification is the ability to resist an immediate reward for a better one later. It reflects future-oriented control and is linked to prefrontal function and reward circuitry. In daily life, it helps you save money, study, or maintain habits. At bedtime, though, delayed gratification can show up as a strange bargain. If I stay up a bit longer, I'll get more time to myself, even when sleep would help tomorrow. The brain discounts the future when tired, valuing immediate comfort or stimulation. The soothing perspective is to make sleep feel like an immediate reward too, something pleasurable now, not just beneficial later. You can notice the softness of sheets, the relief of doing nothing, the quiet luxury of letting your eyes rest. When sleep is framed as a present comfort rather than a future investment, the reward system cooperates. The brain stops negotiating and simply accepts the gentle payoff of drifting. Fact 57. Metacognition. Metacognition means thinking about thinking, monitoring your own mental processes. It helps you notice, for example, that you're distracted, that you're confused, or that you're repeating a pattern. Metacognition can be wise, but it can also become overactive at night. Why am I still awake? What's wrong with me? Am I doing this correctly? That self-monitoring adds a layer of alertness. A calmer approach is to use metacognition only lightly, like a soft label. Ah, my mind is analyzing. And then you let the analysis go. You don't have to stop thoughts with force. You simply stop feeding them extra attention. In sleep science, this resembles a gentle acceptance-based approach, noticing without struggling. Metacognition becomes a lantern, not an interrogation light. It briefly illuminates what's happening, then dims again. And in the dimness, the mind finds its natural descent. Fact 58. Selective attention. Selective attention is the brain's spotlight, the ability to focus on one stream of information while filtering out others. It's what allows you to read in a noisy room or listen to one voice in a crowd. Neuroscience ties selective attention to coordinated networks that enhance certain signals and suppress distractions. At bedtime, selective attention can become a tool for softness. Instead of scanning the whole mind, you choose one gentle target. The breath is a classic one, not because it's magical, but because it is steady, rhythmic, and always available. You might also attend to the sensation of heaviness in your limbs or the sound of the narration. Each time attention drifts, you bring it back without punishment, like slowly turning your face toward warmth. As the spotlight narrows, the rest of the mental theater darkens. Distractions become less vivid, and in that narrowing, the brain begins to settle into the simpler processing of sleep. Fact 59. Sustained attention. Where selective attention is the spotlight, sustained attention is the ability to keep that spotlight steady over time. It supports vigilance, staying with a task despite monotony. In cognitive neuroscience, sustained attention involves right lateralized frontal and parietal networks, among others. But for sleep, you don't need strong vigilance. You need the opposite, permission for attention to soften and break apart. Still, it can help to understand why the mind gets tired. Sustained attention is metabolically costly. When you've been focusing all day on screens, tasks, people, those networks become fatigued and the brain naturally seeks recovery. Night is the scheduled release from vigilance. So if you notice attention fatting, that isn't failure, it's the system working as designed. You can let it happen. Let focus blur. Let the spotlight wobble and dim. The brain is shifting from monitoring to resting, from holding to letting go. Fact 60. Insight versus analysis. Cognitive science often distinguishes between analysis, step-by-step reasoning, and insight, the sudden aha moment that seems to appear fully formed. Studies suggest insight may involve different dynamics, sometimes benefiting from incubation, where the conscious mind stops pushing and the brain reorganizes information in the background. This is a comforting bedtime fact. You don't have to force solutions late at night. The brain can work quietly without conscious effort. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to sleep and let the networks reconfigure. So if you feel tempted to analyze everything before bed, you can treat sleep as a form of intelligent delegation. You hand the work to the night brain. You say softly, "Not now." And paradoxically, by releasing analysis, you make room for insight either in dreams or in the morning when the mind is fresh. For now, your job is simpler: to drift. Chapter 7. The symbolic brain, language and communication. Fact 61. Broca's area. In many brains, a region in the left frontal lobe known as Broca's area plays a central role in producing speech and managing aspects of grammar. It helps translate intention into structured language, turning a thought into a sequence of sounds, paced and ordered. Neuroscience often emphasizes that language isn't stored in a single word box, but emerges from networks coordinating motor planning, auditory feedback, and meaning. Broca's area is part of that coordination, helping speech become fluent rather than tangled. At night, it can be soothing to notice how little language you truly need. You can let sentences dissolve. You can let internal narration grow shorter, softer, less precise. Sleep doesn't require explanation. And in the dim quiet, as your language system loosens its grip, you may feel a gentle relief, like setting down a heavy book you've been reading all day, allowing your mind to rest in something simpler than words. Fact 62, Wernicke's area. Where Broca's area helps with production, Wernicke's area, typically in the left temporal lobe, is strongly involved in language comprehension, mapping sounds and words onto meaning. It helps you understand what you hear, not just as noise, but as ideas. Cognitive neuroscience suggests comprehension relies on linking incoming speech to stored semantic knowledge, definitions, associations, context. At bedtime, comprehension can become pleasantly passive. You don't have to hold every concept tightly. You can simply let meaning wash over you, trusting that your brain will catch what it needs. Many people fall asleep while still understanding the general sense of a narration, even as details blur. That's your comprehension system gently downshifting, still active, still listening, but less insistent. Like hearing someone speak from another room, safely distant, your brain keeps the thread without gripping it, until even the thread fades and sleep takes over. Fact 63, the arcuate fasciculus. Language depends not only on regions, but on connections. The arcuate fasciculus is a bundle of white matter fibers that helps link language comprehension areas with speech production areas, allowing what you understand to influence what you say. Neuroscience often treats it as part of the brain's broader connectome, emphasizing that communication inside the brain is as important as communication between people. This track supports repetition, verbal working memory, and the smooth translation of heard language into spoken language. And there's a calming metaphor here. The brain is a system of bridges. When bridges are strong, information travels gently and efficiently. At night, you can imagine those bridges quieting, traffic slowing, signals becoming less frequent. The pathways remain, but the urgency drops. In rest, the brain does not need constant internal conversation. It can return to a quieter mode, where words become optional. Fact 64, innate language acquisition. Human infants show a remarkable ability to learn language, and many researchers argue that the brain is biologically prepared to detect patterns in speech, an innate readiness for language acquisition. This doesn't mean language is automatic without environment. It means the brain comes with learning mechanisms tuned to rhythm, phonemes, and structure. Developmental psychology often points to sensitive periods when language learning is especially efficient. There's something soothing in remembering that your brain was designed to learn, long before you ever tried to. Learning is not a harsh demand, it's a natural function. Tonight's neuroscience facts are a gentle echo of that original capacity, the mind absorbing patterns simply because it can. And you don't have to study. You can let the information be like lullaby language, structured, rhythmic, and safe, allowing your ancient learning machinery to hum quietly in the background while you drift. Fact 65, bilingual brain density. Research on bilingualism suggests that speaking more than one language is often associated with differences in brain structure and function, including increased white matter integrity in certain pathways and what some scientists call cognitive reserve, a kind of resilience supported by flexible neural networks. Managing two languages involves constant selection and inhibition, choosing one system while keeping another available. Over time, this practice may strengthen executive and language networks. Even if you're not bilingual, the principle is comforting. The brain changes with use. Repeated engagement builds structure, like walking a path until it becomes smooth. At bedtime, you can apply the same idea to calm. Each night you practice slowing down, breathing softly, releasing tension. You're reinforcing a pathway for rest. Your brain doesn't just hope to sleep better, it learns how. And learning in the brain is always physical. Fact 66, prosody and the right brain. Beyond words themselves is prosody, the melody of speech, tone, rhythm, emphasis, and emotional coloring. Neuroscience often finds that the right hemisphere contributes importantly to processing prosody, helping you detect whether a voice is warm, sarcastic, playful, or soothing. This is part of why a calm narrator can feel regulating even if you barely track the content. Your brain listens to the shape of sound. At night, prosody becomes a gentle guide rail for attention. A steady pace signals safety. Soft emphasis signals care. Predictable rhythm reduces surprise, And when surprise reduces, vigilance reduces. You may notice your body responding, shoulders lowering slightly, jaw unclenching, breath lengthening. That's prosody doing its quiet work, language as music, communication as comfort. Even without trying, your nervous system can synchronize with the emotional tempo of the voice, drifting toward a state where sleep feels natural. Fact 67. The mental lexicon. The mental lexicon is the brain's internal dictionary, a vast store of words and their relationships, organized by sound, meaning, and association. Cognitive psychology often explains that words are connected in networks. Activating one concept can spread activation to related concepts, like ripples across a pond. This is why one word can remind you of another, and why thoughts can chain together unexpectedly. At bedtime, that spreading activation can become wandering, pulling you into stories and plans. Yet you can also let it soften. Instead of following every association, you can allow words to become less sticky, more like faint labels floating past. The mental lexicon doesn't need to be used intensely right now. It can close like a library at night, lights dimming aisle by aisle. Words remain stored, safe, and ready for tomorrow, while tonight you rest in something prior to language: breath, weight, quiet. Fact 68. Visual word form area. Reading recruits a region often called the visual word form area, which appears to become specialized through learning, adapting to recognize letter patterns quickly. Neuroscientists sometimes describe this as neural recycling. The brain repurposes existing visual processing circuitry for culturally learned skills like reading. This is a gentle reminder that your brain is practical and adaptive, able to reshape itself around the demands of your world. And at bedtime, it can be restful to let that reading system stand down. No scanning lines, no deciphering symbols, no interpreting screens. If you've spent your day in text, messages, emails, headlines, this is your permission to stop decoding. You can let the mind return to a more primitive, restful mode of perception. Sound without symbols, darkness without letters. And as the visual word system quiets, the brain's overall arousal can lower, making it easier to slide into the smooth, nonverbal terrain of sleep. Fact 69. Gesture-language link. Language is not only in the mouth and ears, it's also in the body. Research suggests that gesture and speech are linked, with overlapping motor and language-related networks supporting communication. This aligns with ideas in embodied cognition. Thinking is influenced by bodily states and actions. Gestures can help organize thought, emphasize meaning, and even support memory. At bedtime, this link offers a calm insight. When the body becomes still, thought often becomes stiller too. You're not just resting your muscles, you're quieting a whole communication system. The hands relax, the face softens, the posture settles, and the brain receives the message that expression is no longer required. Nothing needs to be explained. Nothing needs to be performed. As your body becomes more motionless, your language circuits can downshift, because the mind and body are always in conversation, and stillness is one of the gentlest messages you can send. Fact 70. Pragmatics. Understanding language also requires pragmatics, the ability to interpret meaning in context, including indirect requests, humor, and sarcasm. Pragmatics relies on social cognition. You must infer intent, consider relationships, and read between the lines. This can be cognitively demanding, and it's one reason social interaction can feel tiring. At night, it's a relief to step away from pragmatic decoding. You don't have to interpret hidden meanings. You don't have to wonder what someone really meant. The words you hear here are simple and direct, designed not to challenge or test you. And in the quiet of your room, context becomes uncomplicated. You are safe, you are resting, and nothing is expected of you. Your pragmatic brain can finally stop negotiating social nuance. It can become wonderfully literal again. Sound is sound, warmth is warmth, and sleep is simply sleep arriving slowly when the conditions feel gentle enough. Chapter 8. The Ever-Changing Brain Neuroplasticity. Fact 71. Experience-dependent plasticity. The brain is not a fixed machine. It changes with experience. Experience-dependent plasticity refers to the way neural structure and function adapt based on what you repeatedly do, notice, and practice. This can include changes in synaptic strength, network efficiency, and even structural alterations over time. Neuroscience often emphasizes that attention acts like a sculptor. What you attend to repeatedly becomes more deeply represented. That idea can be calming rather than pressuring. It means you are not trapped inside today's patterns. Even small daily choices, brief moments of calm, gentle routines, simple learning, can gradually shape the brain towards stability. Tonight, the act of listening in a relaxed way is itself an experience, and your brain records experiences. You may be building a pathway that associates nighttime with softness and curiosity rather than struggle. Plasticity means the brain is always updating, so you can let this hour be a quiet update. Rest is safe. Fact 72. Critical periods. In development, there are critical periods, windows when the brain is especially sensitive to certain types of learning, such as aspects of vision and language. During these periods, experience can shape neural circuits with unusual efficiency. Neuroscience distinguishes strict critical periods from broader sensitive periods, but the central idea remains: timing matters. Still, it's soothing to know that even outside these windows, learning continues. Adults may learn differently, sometimes more slowly but with more strategy and meaning. At bedtime, you might reflect that your brain has passed through many learning seasons: infancy, childhood, adolescence, each leaving its mark. You carry those layers quietly inside you, and tonight, you don't need to push learning at all. You can let your brain rest from shaping itself for a while, because even plastic systems need stillness. Sleep is not wasted time. It's part of the cycle that makes learning durable, giving the brain space to stabilize what it has been changing. Fact 73. Adult neurogenesis. For many years, scientists believed adults could not grow new neurons, but evidence now suggests adult neurogenesis occurs in limited regions, notably the hippocampus, though the extent in humans is still studied and debated. The cautious, widely taught takeaway is that the adult brain retains some capacity for renewal and growth, especially in systems related to memory and learning. Regardless of the exact numbers, the deeper message is gentle. The brain is not only a record of the past, it has biological mechanisms for ongoing adaptation. At night, this idea can feel like quiet hope without becoming a promise or a claim. Sleep supports the conditions in which the brain maintains itself, regulating stress chemistry, supporting cellular repair, and consolidating learning. So as you drift, you can imagine your brain not as something wearing down, but as something continuously maintained, cells supported, connections refined, the memory system tended like a garden that quietly regrows. Fact 74. Myelination and speed. When you practice a skill repeatedly, the brain can increase myelination, the insulation around axons that help signals travel faster and more reliably. Oligodendrocytes lay down myelin, turning frequently used pathways into smoother, quicker routes. Neuroscience often compares this to improving the wiring in a complex system: less signal loss, more efficiency. This is part of how effort becomes automatic, how a beginner's slow, conscious steps become an expert's fluid motion. At bedtime, it's calming to remember that the brain rewards repetition, not perfection. You don't need intense sessions, you need consistent ones. Even practicing relaxation, loosening the face, softening the belly, slowing the breath can become easier through repetition. Those are skills too, supported by neural efficiency over time. Tonight's slow pace is not just nothing happening, it's practice. You're rehearsing calm and your brain is built to learn it. Fact 75. Enriched environments. Animal studies and human research suggest that enriched environments, those with stimulation, novelty, social interaction, and opportunities to explore, can increase synaptic density and support cognitive reserve. Enrichment doesn't have to be loud. It can be gentle: music, nature, conversation, learning, meaningful routines. The brain responds to a world that offers variety and engagement. And interestingly, enrichment also makes rest more satisfying because the brain has done its daily work of exploring and encoding. At night, you can let yourself feel that you've already lived inside an environment today, whether it was busy or quiet, and your brain has gathered what it could. Now the environment becomes intentionally simple: darkness, stillness, steady sound. This is like the other half of enrichment: recovery. The brain needs both input and integration, stimulation and sleep. Tonight, you're giving it the integrating half. Fact 76. Spaced repetition effect. Spaced repetition effect is a well-supported learning principle. Information is retained better when reviewed over increasing intervals rather than crammed in one session. Cognitive psychology suggests spacing works because it forces retrieval, strengthens consolidation, and reduces familiarity illusions. It's a quiet example of how the brain loves rhythm: returning, resting, returning again. At bedtime, you can apply the spirit of spacing to your own mind. You don't need to solve everything tonight. You can revisit tasks tomorrow with fresh energy. You can let ideas rest between encounters. Sleep is the ultimate spacing tool, placing time between learning episodes so the brain can consolidate. So if you worry about forgetting, you can remember: the brain thrives on revisiting. Not all at once, not perfectly, just in a gentle pattern. And as you drift, you might even notice that some facts repeat subtly in your mind: networks, connections, balance. Each repetition not effort, but a lullaby for memory. Fact 77. Growth mindset neurobiology. A growth mindset, the belief that abilities can improve with effort and learning, has been associated in psychology research with greater persistence and openness to feedback. Neuroscience complements this by showing that the brain truly is changeable, capable of forming new connections and refining old ones. A growth mindset isn't magical thinking. It's a realistic stance toward plasticity. And at night, it can become an especially gentle attitude toward yourself. Instead of "I'm bad at sleeping," the growth frame becomes "My brain can learn sleep cues." Instead of "I'm stuck," it becomes "I'm adapting." This isn't a demand to improve, it's permission to be in process. Your nervous system is allowed to be imperfect tonight. Even resting while awake is still practice, and over time, practice becomes change. With this mindset, you can soften the inner pressure, and pressure is one of the main things that blocks sleep. Let the brain learn slowly. Let it learn kindly. Fact 78. Hebb's rule. A classic principle in neuroscience is Hebb's rule, often summarized as: neurons that fire together wire together. When two neurons are repeatedly active at the same time, the connection between them tends to strengthen, making that pattern more likely in the future. This is a foundational idea in associative learning. It explains how the brain links experiences: a song with a memory, a place with a feeling, a routine with drowsiness. At bedtime, you can use Hebb's rule softly, without force. Each time you pair the night with calm cues, dim light, slow voice, relaxed breathing, you strengthen the association between nighttime and relaxation. Eventually, the cues alone can begin to trigger sleepiness. You are not commanding your brain, you are teaching it by pairing. Like training a gentle reflex, you repeat the pattern until it becomes easy. And if tonight isn't perfect, it still counts. Wiring happens through repetition, not one performance. Fact 79. Cross-modal plasticity. When a sense is reduced or absent, the brain can reorganize, and areas once devoted to that sense may be recruited for others. This is cross-modal plasticity. For example, in some blind individuals, parts of the visual cortex can become active during tactile tasks like reading Braille. This illustrates the brain's remarkable flexibility. It doesn't waste territory, it reallocates. The calming lesson is that the brain is a problem solver at the level of structure. It adapts to the realities it's given. At night, you can see a mild version of this. As vision dims in darkness, other senses become more prominent: sound, touch, interoception. Your brain shifts resources accordingly. This shifting can be soothing because it draws attention inward and away from stimulating visual input. Darkness is not deprivation, it's a cue for reorganization. And in that reorganization, the nervous system gently turns toward the internal world where sleep naturally lives. Fact 80. Mental rehearsal. Studies in sports psychology and neuroscience suggest that mental rehearsal, visualizing a movement or skill, can activate many of the same motor circuits used in physical practice. While it's not identical to doing the action, it can prime networks, refine timing, and support learning. This is another reminder that imagination is not just imagination in the brain, it's a form of simulation. At bedtime, you can use this gently by rehearsing calm. You might imagine your body growing heavier, your breath smoothing out, your forehead widening into softness. You're not forcing the body, you're giving the brain a template. The motor and autonomic systems respond to imagery more than people realize. And even if you don't visualize clearly, the intention is enough, a quiet rehearsal of letting go. The brain practices the pattern of sleep, and practice makes the transition easier, like a familiar path in the dark. Chapter 9. The nocturnal brain, sleep and restoration. Fact 81. The glymphatic system. When you sleep, the brain doesn't simply turn off. One fascinating discovery is the glymphatic system, a waste clearance pathway that becomes more active during sleep, helping flush metabolic byproducts from brain tissue. Neuroscience research suggests that during deep sleep, spaces between cells may expand slightly, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to circulate more freely, carrying waste away like a slow nighttime rinse. You don't have to visualize this perfectly for it to be soothing. Just imagine a quiet tide moving through the brain's corridors, washing gently, restoring clarity. Sleep becomes not only mental rest but biological housekeeping, an elegant maintenance cycle that is difficult to fully perform while awake. So if you ever feel that sleep is unproductive, this fact offers a calmer truth. Sleep is one of the most active forms of restoration your brain knows. It cleans, resets, and prepares the system for tomorrow's thinking. Fact 82. Circadian rhythms. Your body runs on an internal clock called the circadian rhythm, a roughly 24-hour cycle influenced strongly by light exposure. At the center of this timing system is the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a small cluster of neurons in the hypothalamus that responds to light signals from the eyes. It helps coordinate sleepiness, alertness, temperature changes, and hormonal patterns. Circadian rhythms are not about willpower, they're about timing. And it can be comforting to remember that you are part of a larger rhythm, like a biological ocean with predictable tides. At night, darkness acts like a gentle instruction. Slow down. Even if your mind resists, your body has ancient mechanisms that lean toward rest when the light fades. When you keep your environment dim and calm, you support this timing system, helping the brain recognize without debate that it is safe to transition from daytime attention to nighttime repair. Fact 83. Adenosine pressure. As you stay awake throughout the day, a chemical called adenosine gradually builds up in the brain, creating what sleep scientists call sleep pressure, the increasing drive to sleep. Adenosine is related to energy metabolism in the brain. As neurons work, adenosine accumulates, signaling that the system needs rest. This is one reason caffeine keeps people awake. It blocks adenosine receptors temporarily, masking the feeling of pressure. But in normal cycles, adenosine is like a quiet hourglass, steadily filling. By nighttime, the pressure is naturally higher and your body begins to crave release. There's something soothing in the simplicity of this mechanism. You don't have to earn sleep through perfect behavior. If you've been awake, pressure builds. Sleep becomes a biological response to use. And as you lie still, you are already cooperating with that pressure, letting it gently pull you downward. Fact 84. REM sleep and emotion. REM sleep, known for rapid eye movements and vivid dreaming, appears to play a role in emotional processing. Research suggests REM may help the brain revisit emotional experiences while reducing their sharpness over time, integrating them into memory with less physiological sting. Some scientists describe REM as a kind of overnight emotional therapy, though it's more accurate to say it supports regulation and consolidation. During REM, the brain is active in unique patterns and the body is largely still, as if the mind is traveling while the muscles rest. This can be comforting. Even when you're asleep, Your brain may be gently processing the emotional residue of the day, sorting it, reorganizing it, smoothing it. You don't have to consciously resolve everything before bed. The night brain continues the work in a quieter language, images, metaphors. Dream logic, helping you wake with emotions that feel slightly more manageable, slightly less bright. Fact 85. Deep sleep, slow wave. Deep sleep, also called slow wave sleep or NREM stage 3, is associated with large, slow brain waves and profound physical restoration. During this stage, the body supports tissue repair, immune function, and the release of growth hormone. Memory consolidation also benefits, particularly for certain kinds of learning. Deep sleep is often described as the most physically restorative portion of the night, a time when the brain's arousal systems are at their lowest and waking is hardest. For a sleep listener, it's comforting to know that the goal isn't to stay conscious through the night. The goal is to descend into this slow, heavy stage where thinking becomes minimal and the body repairs itself. You can imagine slow-wave sleep as the brain's quiet basement, cool, dark, steady, where maintenance happens without discussion. And if your mind tries to stay upstairs in the bright rooms of thought, you can gently invite it down, step by step, breath by breath. Fact 86. Sleep spindles. During lighter stages of NREM sleep, the brain produces brief bursts of activity called sleep spindles, rapid, rhythmic waves that appear to help protect sleep from disruption and assist memory consolidation. Spindles involve coordinated loops between the thalamus and cortex, like a quiet communication protocol that says, "We are sleeping. Handle information efficiently. Keep the gates mostly closed." Sleep researchers often find that spindles are associated with learning and stability of sleep, acting like small guardians that help you stay asleep even when the environment isn't perfectly silent. You can picture them as gentle pulses, like a cat purring in the nervous system, signaling safety and continuity. And at bedtime, it can be reassuring to know that once sleep begins, the brain has mechanisms to help maintain it. You are not alone in keeping rest intact. Your brain actively shields it, weaving protective rhythms through the night. Fact 87. Melatonin, the vampire hormone. Melatonin is a hormone released primarily by the pineal gland in response to darkness, signaling that it's time for biological night. It's sometimes playfully called the vampire hormone because light suppresses it. Melatonin doesn't knock you out like a switch. It shifts timing and readiness, helping the body move towards sleep, cooling temperature slightly, supporting the nightly rhythm. The important sleep-friendly lesson is environmental. Dimness matters. Soft light, reduced screens, and a dark room can support the brain's natural melatonin cycle. But beyond practicalities, there's a soothing symbolism in melatonin. It is the body's own dusk, a chemical sunset inside you. As you lie here, you can imagine melatonin rising gently like evening fog, quiet, steady, inevitable. Not forcing sleep, just making the conditions hospitable. The body knows the season. The night hormones arrive like familiar guests, and the nervous system begins to soften in response. Fact 88. Threat simulation theory. One theory about dreaming is threat simulation theory. The idea that dreams may allow the brain to rehearse challenges in a safe, offline way, practicing responses without real-world consequences. This is framed in evolutionary psychology as a possible advantage. Mental rehearsal of danger could improve preparedness. You don't have to take this as the single true purpose of dreams, but it offers a calm perspective on why dreams can be vivid or strange. The brain may be running simulations, testing scenarios, exploring possibilities, updating predictions. At night, that doesn't mean something is wrong. It means the mind is active in its own way. And even if dreams become intense, they are still internal theater, constructed, symbolic, and temporary. The stage lights come on in REM, the brain tells stories, and then the curtains close. You can trust the process. The dreaming brain is practicing life while you rest safely in bed. Fact 89. Sleep and creative insight. Sleep can support creative insight, and research suggests that REM sleep in particular may promote distant associations, linking ideas that are not obviously related. This can lead to new perspectives or solutions that feel like they appeared from nowhere. Scientists sometimes describe this as a loosening of constraints. The brain's networks interact more freely, allowing novel combinations. It's a gentle reminder that not all thinking must be conscious to be effective. If something feels stuck tonight, sleep is not avoidance. It can be incubation. The brain will continue to work quietly without the pressure of focused attention. And there's a soothing humility here. Your mind is larger than your conscious control. It can solve problems behind the scenes, so you can let go of the need to finish everything now. You can hand your questions to the night, like placing a letter in a mailbox, trusting it will be carried somewhere useful while you sleep. Fact 90. Hypnagogia. As you drift from wakefulness into sleep, you may enter hypnagogia, the transitional state filled with drifting imagery, fragmented thoughts, and a soft sense of unreality. Brain activity often shifts towards slower rhythms, including theta waves, and the mind becomes more associative, less logical, more impressionistic. Hypnagogia can include fleeting scenes, sounds, or sensations that feel almost like dreaming, yet you may still be partially aware. This state is normal, and it can be deeply soothing when you stop trying to control it. If you notice strange images or half-formed thoughts tonight, you don't have to figure them out. They are signs that the brain is releasing its daytime structure. Like a boat leaving the dock, the mind becomes untethered, rocking gently into open water. You can let yourself float there. Hypnagogia is the threshold, neither fully awake nor fully asleep, and it often arrives when you simply allow the edges of consciousness to blur. Chapter 10. The Integrated Self, Consciousness and Synthesis. Fact 91. The Default Mode Network. Even when you're not focused on an external task, the brain remains active in a network often called the default mode network. It's associated with mind-wandering, autobiographical memory, imagining the future, and reflecting on the self. Neuroscience suggests this network becomes active during inward attention, when the mind drifts to me, my life, what if? At bedtime, default mode activity can either feel like gentle daydreaming or like rumination. The soothing approach isn't to shut it down completely, but to soften its grip. You can let the default mode do what it naturally does, wander, without believing every thought it produces. Mind wandering is not always meaningful. Sometimes it's just the brain idling. And when you stop treating each inner sentence as urgent, the network quiets naturally. The self-story grows faint. The mind becomes less like a narrator and more like a landscape, open, quiet, and ready for sleep. Fact 92. Global Workspace Theory. One influential idea about consciousness is global workspace theory, which suggests that information becomes conscious when it is broadcast across a wide network of brain regions, like a spotlighted message shared with many systems at once. When something enters the global workspace, it can guide action, memory, and decision-making. When it doesn't, it stays local and unconscious. At night, this broadcasting system changes. The brain becomes less interested in wide sharing and more interested in local processing and restoration. That's part of why you can hear sounds without fully waking or have thoughts that don't become stable narratives. The global workspace dims, like a theater with fewer lights turned on. Fewer signals get promoted to center stage, and that's restful. It means you don't have to keep being aware of everything. Consciousness narrows and fades in a natural sequence, and sleep is simply the brain choosing not to broadcast, choosing quiet internal work instead. Fact 93. Neural correlates of consciousness. Scientists often speak about the neural correlates of consciousness, the minimum patterns of brain activity associated with having a conscious experience. This is not a single location, but an ongoing research question exploring how awareness arises from networks and communication. Different theories emphasize different mechanisms, including integration of information and recurrent processing loops. For a sleep listener, the soothing takeaway is that consciousness is not an all-or-nothing switch. It is graded. It can thin out, soften, fragment, and return. You can be partly aware and still deeply resting. You can drift in and out of micro moments where thought disappears, then returns briefly. This is not a problem, it's the natural fading of the conscious state. As you lie here, you don't have to hold onto the experience of me listening. You can let consciousness become lighter, like fog dispersing. The brain knows how to do this. Awareness gently reduces and sleep grows in its place. Fact 94. The sense of agency. The sense of agency is the feeling that you are the author of your actions, that I did this, I chose that. Neuroscience suggests this sense is partly constructed by the brain comparing intended movements with sensory feedback. When the match is good, you feel ownership. When it's disrupted, agency can feel strange or unclear. In everyday life, agency is useful. It helps you navigate responsibility and control. At bedtime, though, a strong need for agency can keep you awake, trying to control sleep, trying to command the body to power down. The soothing alternative is to let agency loosen. You don't have to do sleep. Sleep is something that happens when conditions are right. You can set the stage, stillness, dimness, warmth, and then let the process run without micromanagement. Like breathing, sleep is mostly automatic. The more you allow it to be automatic, the easier it becomes. Agency can step aside, and the body can take over. Fact 95. Flow states. A flow state is a condition of deep immersion where attention is fully engaged, self-consciousness decreases, and time can feel altered. Psychology research links flow to optimal challenge and clear feedback, and neuroscience discussions sometimes include the idea of transient hypofrontality, a temporary reduction in certain prefrontal activity. While flow is often discussed in work or creative performance, there's a gentle parallel to sleep. Both involve reduced self-monitoring and a narrowing of attention. At bedtime, you don't need to achieve flow, but you can borrow its quality of absorption. Let the narration be the simple task, listening without striving. Let your attention rest on the slow cadence like watching a candle flame. When self-evaluation fades, time becomes less sharp. Minutes stop being counted, and that timelessness is a doorway. Sleep often arrives when you stop tracking progress, when you're no longer watching the clock inside your head. In that soft absorption, you drift. Fact 96. The predictive brain. A powerful modern view is that the brain is a predictive machine. Rather than passively receiving the world, it constantly generates predictions about what it expects to sense, then updates those predictions based on incoming data, an idea related to predictive coding and Bayesian inference. This helps the brain process information efficiently, but it also explains why anxiety can arise. The brain predicts threat, then searches for evidence. At bedtime, you can soothe the predictive brain by giving it stable, repetitive signals, steady sound, consistent darkness, familiar sensations. Predictability tells the brain, no surprises are coming. The nervous system can relax because its main job, anticipating what's next, becomes easy. And when prediction error is low, the brain doesn't need heightened alertness. It can enter the low-demand mode of sleep, where predictions become dreams, internal models running freely, without needing to match the outside world. Fact 97. Brain-body environment. The brain is not an isolated organ. It is part of a larger system involving the body and environment. Modern perspectives like embodied cognition and 4E cognition emphasize that thinking is shaped by posture, movement, sensory input, tools, culture, and context. Your mind is partly in your nervous system and partly in how you are situated in the world. At bedtime, this is wonderfully practical. You don't have to change your thoughts directly. You can change the environment and the body, and thoughts will often follow. Dim the room, soften the jaw, relax the hands, slow the breath. These bodily and environmental shifts send signals to the brain that the situation is safe and quiet. The mind responds by simplifying. So if you're trying too hard to think your way into sleep, you can instead feel your way into it. Adjust the world around you and the brain will adapt, as it was always designed to do. Fact 98. Neurodiversity. Neurodiversity refers to natural variations in how human brains are wired and how minds process the world. It's a reminder from psychology and neuroscience that there is no single standard brain. There is a spectrum of functioning, perception, attention, and style. This fact can be soothing at night because many sleep struggles come from comparison. Why can't I sleep like other people? But brains vary. Some are more sensitive to sound, more active at night, more vivid in imagery, more persistent in thought. Variation is not failure, it is biology. Tonight, you can offer your brain respect for its particular shape. You can stop demanding that it behave like an imagined ideal. Instead, you can collaborate with it, finding cues and routines that suit your nervous system. When the mind feels accepted rather than judged, it often calms. And calm is the true gateway to sleep, regardless of how your brain differs from anyone else. Fact 99. The plasticity of self. Because the brain is always changing, the self is not a fixed object, it's a process, continuously updated by memory, learning, relationships, and biology. Psychology often emphasizes that identity is partly narrative, partly habit, partly bodily state. Neuroscience supports this by showing that networks shift with experience. The you of today is not identical to the you of 5 years ago. This can feel unsettling in the daytime, but at night it can be freeing. You don't have to hold a rigid self together while you sleep. You can loosen the storyline. You can let roles dissolve, worker, helper, thinker, planner, and return to something simpler, a living body on a bed breathing. In sleep, the self-process quiets. It becomes less narrated, less defended. And in that quiet, restoration becomes easier. You can trust that you will still be you in the morning, perhaps even a softer, more refreshed version, because the self is something your brain rebuilds naturally each day. Fact 100. The evolutionary peak. The human brain is often described as one of the most complex structures we know, an evolutionary peak in terms of interconnectedness and emergent function. From billions of neurons and trillions of synapses, qualities arise that are not present in individual cells: language, empathy, imagination, self-awareness. This is what scientists call emergence, the whole becoming more than the sum of its parts. And there is something profoundly soothing in ending here. You listening now are an emergent phenomenon, consciousness resting on biology, meaning resting on matter. Your thoughts and feelings are not proof that something is wrong, they are proof of complexity. A complex system needs cycles of repair. Sleep is one of those cycles. So as you let your awareness fade, you are not losing anything. You are returning the brain to its natural rhythm. Wake, learn, connect, restore. In the quiet dark, the most complex organ in the known world is doing what it was designed to do: rest, reorganize, and begin again. Thank you for spending this quiet hour with Rare Mindset. May your dreams be soft, your mind feel cared for, and tomorrow greet you with a little more clarity, a little more balance, and a little more peace.